Hey gang, Kevin here, Life22. And I wanted to um, start this beautiful, beautiful morning. Actually, I still don't know if it's a beautiful morning outside. I'm sure Dario is going to post in the comments that I'm incorrect again. It's 40 degrees out, bro. Anyways, um, I wanted to jump back into the Alderman races. We had some posts yesterday morning after we did the podcast from a couple of the incumbents, and I figured I would delve into them as well as upcoming guests, talk about a few different things. So, again, this afternoon we have Della Moore in studio. So, stay tuned, listen to that. She is a fan favorite. Everybody loves Della. And then, let's see. We're going to be putting together a special. I'm trying to figure out how I want to lay this out, but I would like to do more of a I want to do a financial or an investment section, probably a separate playlist on the show. It might be different than the morning show. I'm debating how I want to do that. I want to debating if I want to just kind of talk about the topic of the day on the morning show, if it's going to be local politics, or if it's going to be something different, maybe more than just your drive to work. So, let's see here. So, and I know there's been a lot of contention lately. Let's see here. So I know there's also an issue coming up at the Common Council tonight. I believe there is going to be, a group of protesters coming in about the Allegheny River, which we're building a special on that as well. It'll probably be like a multi-part series in the morning show. It may even take up a whole morning show to get through a large portion of it. Just finiting the facts and stuff. The things that people aren't telling you. A lot of people are rooting this in emotion, and they're not rooting it in like actual facts and knowledge. And the one concern is that, facts don't care about your feelings, to quote the great Ben Shapiro. Because that's the issue. I mean, a lot of big issues are that people are coming out of left field. They're, I feel this way. Well, guess what? You know what? Like, I don't know. From a young age, I was always told that, like, yes, you have emotions. You should kind of embrace them when, like, you have the birth of a child, or in love with somebody and you get married, things like that. Those are important. But, like, to let them rule your life, like almost 95% of the world is run by emotion, which it shouldn't be. That's like what they always, you know what I mean? Like, even founding fathers reference that, like, you have to be rational, you have to be logical, which is not an emotional portion of the brain. And there's a book I recommend to a lot of people that don't understand emotional intelligence. You have to understand that it exists so you can control it, because essentially, like, it is a very irrational portion of your brain. It does not deal in logic. It is the lizard brain, as some people like to refer to it as. There's a book called Emotional Intelligence, and I will find a link to that book on Audible, and I will put it in the comments below, or not the comments, but the description, just because I know a lot of my listeners are about self-betterment and educating yourself. So I recommend you get educated on that, because, letting emotions rule your life, which is what 95% of Americans do, which is one of the biggest issues, right? Like, oh my God, they're doing this. We got to go freak out. And that's why everybody's so divisive, is because we become a less educated society. We let our emotions rule everything. And then we like, exaggerate and get like ramped up on different things. And like, listen, like, yeah, I'm guilty of it too, right? No human's perfect, but like, I get ramped up on things, but like, you can't like make every decision from an emotional standpoint. And like, you have to understand that, like, emotions are not working for you. They're working for your lizard brain. Like, they want to make sure that you survive. But like with social media, like, it doesn't know what to do. So it just lets you just freak out how you will. And that's not a perfect way to survive in this world, is to go lizard brain on the internet. I mean, you can go TikTok viral, probably lose your job and all this other stuff, so, oh boy. So we have incumbent Alderman Vernon Robinson Jr. So yesterday morning, so he wrote a post, taxes, who wants to pay them? I don't know, but the reality is we must pay them in some form, right? Our property taxes play an important role in serving for the services you receive from the city. But my taxes went up for the past fill in the blank years. Well, not exactly. And then so he goes into an excerpt here, and this is what I've been telling some of the aldermen and the council president, that one of the big issues is you're going to have to raise taxes. You're going to have to raise. I don't want to see taxes get raised, but you're going to have to. It's inevitable. You can't. And if you do raise taxes, you're stepping on the third rail of politics, and you really don't need to. So, and well, you do need to. Somebody needs to. It's just most people don't. Most people won't. And so here, and then we're breaking the tax cap. So I implore you to go to his Alderman page on Facebook and read the post to its entirety. But then in this, he posts a screenshot. Let's see here. He posts a screenshot from, it looks like the City of Olean, New York tax rates per thousand of assessed valuation. So I do need to dive more into this, but I believe, like, where he's saying that we haven't raised taxes significantly in the last many years, since 2011. We've stayed at the tax cap. The downside was, I don't believe a tax cap existed too far after the 2000s. I'd have to find out when the tax cap was implemented by New York State and for most of you who don't know what the tax cap is, the state incentivizes local municipalities to not increase their property taxes, by so much each year. If your municipality doesn't break the tax cap, you get like an additional like rebate in a separate check or in your star exemption check from the state. There is a rebate if they don't break the tax cap. And it's so inconsequential. Like when they go up 1%, I mean, we're talking like $20 a person, but then the state gives us like money back and it's like $50 a person if you don't increase the taxes. It's like, well, but if they go up 1%, so they go up 2%, you make $10. You know what I mean? Like it's an inconsequential number to increase taxes by a percentage point, right? But it's also an inconsequential number to like, why is the state handing us that money back? Like, then don't take our money in the first place if you're just going to hand it back. Like, why don't you just give it to our municipality? Like, hey, here's all the money we would have given your constituents, and so you can use this to offset the taxes. Like, oh, that would be phenomenal. I would love that. But so it disincentivizes municipalities to break the tax cap and incentivizes constituents to push their municipality don't raise taxes. And it's like, but you have to raise taxes because, like in the last couple of years, inflation has not, the taxes have been outpaced by inflation. So like, and the costs of goods that the city pays for, the city uses for repairs, the city pays in wages, that goes up significantly. And every year, like a 1.5% tax increase would keep you on the level. But when you miss a year or you're below it a year, like now you have to play catch up. So, and if in years where it's like 8-9% inflation, like you really have to like compensate for that. So it is, and it's compounding, which it adds another spectrum of, complication to the situation. But if you look at his screenshot here on the post, it starts in 1987. No, 1987, and it shows a 5%, 7%, 11%, 0% increase, 9%, 10%, 8%. So like if you were try to like use these numbers to get in the heads of the Common Council at the time, but you're also looking at the tax rate starts at 49.25%, or tax rate per thousand. So a 5% increase is $2.33 per thousand. So if we pull up a nice calculadora, let's see here. So if your house is an average house in Olean, pre-COVID, the numbers are easier that way. Your house is worth $50,000, right? Not $50, $50,000. And then, so if you're paying taxes at 49.25 per thousand, right? So times, let's see here, 49.25 per thousand is 50,000. And then we want to divide it by 1,000 to give us the number. So it's 50,000s, right? So you're paying $24.62.50 per thousand in 1987, right? Well, if you keep following that, wow, and then it goes, so an increase was $2.33, right, per thousand. So if that same $50,000 house went up by $2.33, it went up by $116 back in 1987, right? Well, by the time they ended this in 2010, taxes had to go up so much to cover costs that you were paying $170.98, and that's just, and I don't know if this incorporates the school taxes and the county, or I don't. So once we get to this next part, this is why I don't believe it does. But because I know right now we are currently at about $54 per thousand, and that's aggregatively across every metric: the school districts, the school tax bill, the county tax bill, and your city. So you would have been paying an extra $116.50 per thousand for that, 5% increase, right? So divide that by 5. Oop. Oh, because it was also based on the percentage, right? So, okay. So, yeah, so in 2012, let's say 2020, there was a 1% tax increase. It was 15 cents, right? So $2.33 per, times 1,000. Wait a minute. No, times 50. What am I? Jesus, Kevin, what are you doing this morning? Times 50 is $116 divided by 5 was $23.30 per percent of what the tax rate was. So a percentage increase, right, in 1987 to 1988, the year I was born, if any of you gave a shit. So percentage increase. So if your house is worth $50,000 and you had a 1% increase in 2020, it was 15 cents. So 15 times 15 cents was $7.50 for a 1% increase. So if you broke the tax cap and you went 3%, we're going to multiply that number by 3, you're $22.50, and the state wouldn't give you a check for 50. Which is dumb, because you'd be like, why wouldn't the state just give us the money? If you're taking it out of our income taxes, just give it back to us, the county, the city. Like, it's stupid. Anyways, but in 2010 to 2011, there was, and this is a point that I have to, that is like very real in what Vernon posted here. And I think he was using this chart to convey like how tax increases were huge, prior to 2011, because I mean, there was 2007 to 2008, like a 19% tax increase. Looks like the highest one of all the years. And then it was 14 before it and 11 after it and dropped to 5. And then there was a negative 92% tax increase, which means it's a tax decrease of 92%. In 2010 to 2011 budget year. So the city's budget runs June 1st. Like for example, this upcoming year is June 1st of 2025 to May 31st of 2026. So it's not even mid-year, right? Because everyone thinks, oh, June's the middle of the year. Like, no, technically July 1st is the beginning of the second half of the year. So a true budgetary year would be July 1st to right? Or am I off on that? I might be off on that. No, all right, never mind. They're right. It's too early in the morning for Kevin. So they do a half year fiscal year versus your standard, calendar year fiscal year. But there was a tax refi, or not refi, a tax adjustment or a reassessment that is done. And so what they do is they say, okay, well, what is your fair market value of your house? So there's all these houses that were undervalued until 2011 when they did, 2010, 2011 when they did a tax, a refi or a reeval. And so that reeval actually took a house that maybe like my grandparents were probably stuck in the middle of that. I mean, my grandfather died in 2009. They didn't sell the house until about 2010. Maybe he died in 2007. No, I was in Texas when he died. 2009, February 2009. They probably sold the house in 2010. So right about that time, they probably did a reeval. But my grandfather was paying taxes on he bought the house with the lot next to it on over by Irving Street, Irving Parkway, Irving Street. And it was, Jesus, I think my dad used to tell me he paid like 10 grand, 9 grand. And then eventually with tax increases, and little assessments here and there, or the reassessment they did probably prior to 1987, because they bought the house in like the 1960s. And so he was paying I think by the time they sold the house, the estate, the assessed value at the time was $16,000. They sold it for 30, but it was one of those so if you have a lot of houses that are not been reevaluated since the 60s, and maybe they did a reeval in 1987, and that's why this goes back that far, or maybe this is the furthest back they went with electronic. But if they didn't do a 1987, and they're the assessed value of my grandfather's property was $16,000. All right, well, so a tax increase on a $16,000 house in 1987 times 2.33, if that was the average house, which I would say it was slightly below average because it was like a it was a 3-bedroom home. It wasn't the average, it wasn't the nicest, but it probably was the average. That wasn't an apartment or a duplex, but that was a $37 tax increase. And I'm sure he griped about it. That's like 3 cases of beer back in 1987. 5 cases of beer. You could have bought a keg for $37.28. Actually, Jesus, you could probably bought 2 kegs back then. Because, in 2006, when I was in high school, not buying kegs, but I happen to know the keg prices, because you could get a keg of PBR for $32.36. Remember that, duly noted, right up here. You go, and the year before that, they had passed that stupid $105 deposit thing. So you had an investment in a keg for sure, and drove a lot of people to Pennsylvania where the deposit was only $10. So, but then people kept scrapping the keg because they were only $10. You could scrap a keg of stainless steel and get $50 back as long as you blew a bullet hole in it and it was good to go. So, so they had to raise it to 30, and then work with the scrapyards to not accept them, and scrap values drop, so you weren't getting more than 30 for them anyway. So why would you even bother? Just bring it back to the beer store, get your money back. Anyways, another tangent. Thanks, guys. Anyways, so in 2011 they dropped. So the price per thousand on tax rate was $14.44. So if your house was probably only worth or only appraised at $25,000, let's just use that as a high number. $25,000 times 49.25. You were paying for your city tax bill. You were paying $1231.25 a year. 123 125. That's what you're paying. You're paying just over $1,200 for the city for your tax bill, which is right around normal for nowadays. So it's been kind of consistent, really. Well, no, it's dropped. So that's got to be. Houses must have been appraised at a lot lower. And I'm wondering, I would see, like I said, I have to do more research into this. But these are the things that you don't understand about a refi. So a lot of the houses, I would like to know what the average house was worth during that time period. So you could see when it gets up to 170.98, like before they did their reeval, they probably had houses that were appraised at $10,000 because they hadn't been evaluated since the 1910s. It sounds like $10,000 house, or even just keeping that number solid. I doubt you had too many houses worth 25,000, at least on the tax rolls is what they were appraised at. 25 times 170.98, which is where it ended in 2010, right? You were paying $42.74. Price per thousand. I wonder if they also separated. Maybe you got one bill during that time period too. I wasn't paying tax bills at that. Well, I may have. No. My dad used to gripe about it too. Oh, I got 3 different tax bills to pay. No, it must have always. I just wonder what they did until the refi. So now all of a sudden they go through and they're going to reappraise homes, right? So this is a notice of something that you should be thinking about, though. If they're reappraising homes and now all of a sudden your house is significantly, they don't just go through and say, hey, we're charging you $170.98 per thousand on the assessed value of your home. And then they go through and raise the houses. So now all of a sudden your house that was worth 25,000 is now worth 100, right? That is an issue. It is now worth $100,000. Okay. Well, they're not going to charge you $170.98 because if your house was 100, well, this should be easy math, right? Move the decimal place over 2, right? You're paying $17,000 a year for your $100,000 house. Well, that's ridiculous. Sorry, excuse me. That is ridiculous. And there's no way they would do something like that. And that's why there is a 98% or 92% tax decrease, because they reevaluated. And then it says right at the bottom, oh, there it is, right at the bottom. There's a little asterisk next to 2010, 2011. And it says first property reassessment since 1968. 1968. So if my grandparents lived around the corner in a house when my dad was born in 1954. And he said when he was a boy, they moved to the house that eventually my grandparents died. They didn't die in the house, but you know what I mean? Like they died. That was the last house they owned before they passed away. And I remember it being worth like $16,000 on the tax rolls. That's not what it's actually worth. It's just what the government says it's worth because of the reeval. So they go off of like previous sale price and things like that. And they track some of that data. They track if you pull a building permit that does a remodel. If you pull a building permit for a roof, they don't raise your taxes. At least they're not supposed to. For the simple fact that your house, like if you paint your house, like your house is supposed to be painted every 5 years. The condition of your house is supposed to be they're taxing you based on the value, and that value is at your house being at 100%. That means brand new roof, siding is just freshly painted or freshly sided, foundation's in good repair, like there's no major issues. And what happens is if you let those things go because you don't want them to raise your taxes, all that does is when you go to sell the house, that drops the value, like the sale value. So, and then the sales value is what they base it off of. So if you owned a $100,000 house when they reevaled, and I would say they took that $25,000 home and they made it $50,000, or they made it maybe $75,000, right? Which would make more sense, right? So they haven't raised it since 1968, and they went up and they did a reassessment. And so you say 75 times the new rate in 2010, right, is $14.44. And this is why I believe this portion is the city's share. You're paying $1,000 for a $75,000 home, which makes sense, right? Because on average in the city, with between all 3 bills, if your house is worth $50,000, you're paying about $3,000 a year in taxes, give or take. So if you have a $100,000 home, it's $6,000 a year, and that's across all 3 bills, right? So, yeah, you're paying $1,000 a year to your city for your taxes. Which, to Vernon's point in the post, you're getting a phenomenal deal out of that. I mean, people are like, "Oh, I'm paying taxes." Like, you're getting a phenomenal deal because you're getting police, you're getting fire, you're getting roads, and you can gripe about the condition of all of them, right? Like, well, the police aren't the best, or the fire department isn't the greatest, or, or the roads have potholes. Like, you can always find something to nitpick. But I think what you get for $1,000.83 in 2010, or even $17.77 times 75 for $1,300, like $300 more a year in a 15-year span. And that's inflation, so that's not the city's fault that they pay more money, that you have to pay more money to the share to contribute. And that was with a 6%. Oh, that's with the projected 6% tax increase. So they broke the tax cap. It was 2021, it was 1%. 2022 to 23, it was 3%, 4%, 5%, and now projected at 6%, which they'll probably settle at 3 to 4%. But I think, like, you can poke holes in anything that you want at the city government level. You can say that you don't like this, you don't like that, there's too many potholes, whatever. You're getting all those things. You're getting a rec center, you're getting an ice skating rink, you're getting a stadium, you get youth basketball, you get a wading pool, you have parks, you have playground equipment. You get all these little benefits besides the big ones, which I'm in favor of, like, wholeheartedly, which is your level roads, your protection from crackheads and people breaking into your home, and then obviously if my neighbor's house burns down, like, get over here, put it out. I don't want my house going up like a candle. Like, it's you're getting all that for $1,300 a year for your $75,000 home. Like, insurance is about that. So, like, if you want the added protection of, well, if these things don't protect, like, and with the insurance, you're just getting, like, you could pay half that price and just get fire insurance. But if your house burns down, you want to build a brand new house exactly the same with the oak trim that maybe your house has at $75,000 in the city. You're not getting that for, like, less than $500,000 if you were to build new oak trim, mosaic tile flooring. Like, there's a lot of these, like, caveats. Like, you're getting a nice house for $75,000 only in New York, and you have to pay $1,300 a year in taxes. But you get more than you would get with insurance. Like, so actually, I would say you get less out of, a fire and ACV replacement, or in an indemnity policy, to indemnify you all the way up to a rebuild, would probably be about the same price. So to protect your home, but that doesn't protect you from crackheads. That doesn't pave the road in front of your house. Like, that doesn't provide code enforcement. Like, it doesn't provide a lot of things with your insurance price. The $1,300 does. I was gonna say, I probably pay $1,300 a year for the insurance on my home. And my insurance adjuster ain't coming here to protect me from crackheads. They're not gonna have somebody come, somebody comes, breaks into my house, kills me and my family, takes all our stuff. They're not gonna be providing justice. They're not gonna have an investigator show up. They might have an investigator show up to figure out what the house is worth when the estate goes to sell it. But I don't care about that. I want justice. I want justice for my corpse. Like, that's like. So those are all the things that you're getting for your $1,300, which I think is well more than insurance. Nobody gripes. Well, people gripe about insurance, but nobody gripes that, the difference between that. Nobody draws the comparable, right? So I would have to do more research into, like, what were the average homes during that time period. These are the things that I would be asking. So we've already done 30 minutes on just Vernon's post here, but I think that it's good that he brought it up. I think that he is touching the third rail of politics a little bit. But given that he's an incumbent without, I don't believe, in an uncontested race, I think that he'd probably be the one that, and if you're doing what's right, man, you got to raise taxes. I also think they need to curb spending on certain things. I think that they need to budget more money for things that they already own, that need maintenance, that need continued TLC, things that they own, like there's different structures that need roofs, things that you need to be planning for, that, like, they should be building the general fund. I think that, if you curb spending I think they either passed or they're going to pass a rule that I've been talking about for a while. Well, since the city's shortfall this year, I've been saying you need to just always anticipate 75% of sales tax, and any money, the other 25%, like let's say you match next year with 0% increase, that 25% can roll right to the general fund just every year. Don't prepare to spend it because you have a deficit. You don't have a deficit, but you have a very low fund balance. You're supposed to have like 15% of the fund balance in there, and I believe it was supposed to be like 24 to 28, 2.4 to 2.8 million dollars in there, and we're under one. And I know the state owes money and stuff like that, but it's like, man, like build it. 25% of your sales tax getting dumped in there for a couple of years, and then after that you can allocate money from the general fund after you've regained your savings, to comfortably cover, because your general fund isn't your it's not like a savings account, right? It's actually working capital. It's not in one, like they call it an account, but that's just an accounting term, right? It's not like in a bank account, like not touched, this 2.6. Like it is money used to pay vendors that for toilet paper, for mop buckets, cleaning solutions. It is money to cover the 100 line item contractual labor, so like the W-2 employees of the city. It's used to cover retirement fund contributions, medical insurance contributions, insurance on properties the city owns. It's the working capital that does all that. So like when you're in between years and you haven't billed for property taxes this year, you haven't gotten your quarterly sales tax in, like you need money in the bank to cover that. Yeah, at the end of the year you might be net positive. Some years you're net negative. But like you need to be, on the whole, you need to be keeping a healthy fund balance in there, because 15% of your annual budget in just the general fund savings portion of that account allows you to always maintain a minimal working capital balance. And that's the purpose of it. You start dropping down to 5% or lower, like you're overdrafting the bank account to cover payroll like that. And that doesn't bode well. So, but I'm glad that he pointed this out. So another post was from Sonia McCall. Over the past 4 years, serving my constituents in Ward 4 have been a tremendous honor in both 2003. So I've worked diligently. Let's see here. I look back at the past couple of years, my run in 2021, priorities. So she's kind of, I encourage each and every one of you to go there and do this. I appreciate your past support. Let's see. Your city faces many challenges. She talks about the city. So she's pretty much giving her speech here. I am running for re-election. So maybe she was making it formal. In November. I know that there's a lot of work to be done coming year. I've been endorsed. Okay, so maybe it was, yeah, because I did point out that she had, that her other one didn't point out, like I think it pointed out that they had nominated her, but she didn't point out specifically, come out and say that she was rerunning. And maybe that's what this is, an official post to do. She's been endorsed by the Democratic Party and the Working Families Party. I have to do research into that, because I always feel like I always say Democratic Party, but I don't believe I believe that's where the word derives from, but I believe their party title is Democrat Party. But maybe it is Democratic. It's one of those like, it's like when people mishear it and they go, "Oh, I'm an independent." And then they're actually signed up for the Independence Party, which was a thing a few years ago in New York, and we've talked about it on the show. I appreciate your past support. Request all further, I encourage anyone who wants to be part of the solution and has ideas to reach out to me through my city email. So, all right, and then she gives that below. So, I think that's some exciting stuff. All right, let's see. And I know there was Hmm. Here it is. All right. So, and I know, a few other people have come out of the woodwork in Ward 2 for Alderman. I haven't, I've seen in the comments people saying that there's somebody else running and that they're a great candidate. And I haven't seen a Facebook page pop up yet. It was kind of like there was the third candidate for mayor or fifth candidate for mayor or something like that that popped up. Um, like I have a feeling that the fourth candidate for mayor is going to drop out. There was there's the incumbent Bill Aleo. There is Amy Sherburne, um, and then there's Jared Eisman. On the Republican side, Amy Sherburne has been cross-endorsed by the Dems. So for those of you who are not following, this is the quick rundown. And then there was Bob Buchanan had announced, and then quickly I believe, was dispatched by his wife, who told him not to run. She didn't think it would be a good idea. So I believe he is settling in this march for marriage with the opine of his wife and not running. So Ward 2, I've heard, and so but there was another grumbling of some other guy on the 14760 group or the Only in Politics group or something. One of those Facebook groups, somebody had posted so and so is going to run, and then there was a lot of contention, which it is what it is. Let's see here. So Joe Kerry's still running. I think that he'd be a good candidate. I'm excited to have him on the show. If the other candidates are running, they need to get their petitions out there. They need to make they need to make a Facebook page. They need to do, get at least get their name out there. Because if I don't know you're running, man, like then you probably ain't running. That's usually. But I also encourage you to reach out to me to let me know that you're running, so we can schedule a time for you to get on the show. We'll be sending out invitations to all the upcoming candidates in the next coming days, so that we can start getting a schedule together. So Joe Kerry, Ward 2, Sonia McCall, Ward 4. I believe somebody did mention there was a Ward 4 alderman that was going to be contesting Sonia, but I could be mistaken, because a lot of times it is, like I said, Facebook. It is Facebook like nonsense too. So Sonia McCall, Democratic candidate. Nope. Yeah. Other cities and municipalities. Nope. I have nothing that popped up on my quick Facebook search. So but yes, so and then Ward 6 is Vernon Robinson Jr. and Ward 7 is Dave Anastasia, which I like. There hasn't been really many people coming forward out of the woodwork to run for any of these. So like I heard that there were grumblings of people maybe running, but that's I'm not getting too much. So and then obviously we talked about school boards yesterday. We have Delamore coming on the show. We have an expose I'd like to do on tiny homes. I'd like to get you guys some information on sewer discharge, the facts that they're not telling you, that would surprise you and probably put a lot of protesters to shame. And then I'd also like to do, and this is so actually this next part gets me into this. I know you guys don't like to listen to me talk for 40 minutes, but so there was the article we talked about yesterday. I think he removed it. What a butthead. So there was a few people on the Only in Stars page. There was one person in particular, and he didn't use a real name, and I know the Only in Star had an issue with it, and they've posted up a comment in the meantime. I was going to read that comment, but I didn't screenshot it, so I believe it's gone now. And essentially, the name on the account was, well, we know, and then who So anyways, if you break the word down, it's we know, N-O, who, H-O-W, or sorry, W-H-O, U, the letter U, and then R. And then the last two letters are E-F. So I'm assuming it was like a scare tactic for Eric Ferkel, who wrote the article. Like, we know who you are, Eric Ferkel. And it was humorous to see this because the person in there, I was trying to figure out who it might be when I was reading the comment, was because it was talking about, like, I'm corrupt Kevin. And I'm thinking, like, this person's out of touch. And, like, he got a job with the city because blah, blah, blah. Like, no, listen, I got a job with the city because there was an opening. And because it was a better way for me to give back to my community than just being an alderman. Like, let that sink in. Like, I'm doing an HVAC job for half of what people in the industry are making doing an HVAC job. Like, and you can make the argument, yes, the city has insurance and they have, retirement and stuff like that. Like, whatever. Like, that's a nonsense. That's a non-starter because you're already getting 50% of your pay. Like, and the reason you take a job working for a municipality at a lower wage is, well, yes, the argument that, well, you get like 20% more in benefits than you would anywhere else. Okay, so now you're working for, 70% of your wage or 75% of your wage. Where's the other 25% then, huh? And that's what most people from the public and most municipal employees also miss too, is that the fact that you don't work for a municipality expecting it to be a great job. You do it to give back to your community. There's an altruistic portion. It's a good 25% of what you get paid. Like, obviously you can't volunteer at everything that you love. I love my community, and that's why I take that position. If the position dried up, I can find work elsewhere. Like, I'm not concerned about workload. I can find work elsewhere. But it's the fact that that's why you do it. So for somebody to be on the Only in Star comment section being, Kevin's corrupt, he played his position to get a job with the city. Like, no. I graduated into a higher benefit to my city. I could benefit my city in a better way. And that's what I do. Tireless hours. I'm the guy that if you go to the city, like, I'm the guy who doesn't take a lunch break. I don't take regular breaks. Like, I don't do these things. I'm yelled at for it too, because, like, I'm working so hard. It's like, well, if you work late, you have to get paid for it. Like, no, I don't care. This is my city. Like, I'm willing to die for it. Like, that is, if it came down to my city or my kids, like, I'll take a bullet for them usually over, an elected official. But I'm just saying, like, this is, that you have to have that in your gut. And if you don't have that in your gut, like, that's what makes the general public not like a lot of, the city government, is because they get that vibe that not everybody has that. And you're supposed to have that when you're going into it. You're supposed to, like, work tirelessly and go above and beyond and have that hunger that we spoke about in an earlier episode from last week, that you're supposed to have that hunger, and most people don't. And that's the issue. Most people don't in most aspects of their life, and that's what separates the wheat from the chaff, right? And but for somebody to be on here saying that I'm corrupt, like, get out of here. I'm like the biggest advocate for, like, free speech and transparency. As you can see by the article that's above it, that's rich. Like, okay, well, that's rich because your misconception of Kevin is incorrect. That's why. That's what the comment said. This is rich. And then they're also making fun of Eric Ferkel. And I think the reason why they're making fun of Eric Ferkel, take Eric how you will. I can't speak for for his altruism as much as my own. But like with the Olean Star, he's exposing the lies and the bullshit and the corruption. I think they're doing a phenomenal job over there, because there is. And that leads me to my last point before I let you guys go for the day, and that is that I'm also planning on doing an expose on corrupt politicians, starting from the top of our county down. And the first one that we're going to start with is most likely going to be the king himself, Michael Brisky, and that'll be a fun one. And I know Mike is probably watching this. Is probably somebody's going to clip this and send it to him and be like, watch it 45 minutes in. Kevin talks about you. Great. Bring it on. I feel like Elon Musk, in an extent that by me going down some of these rabbit holes to expose the corruption of our county government, that I am potentially putting my life at risk. Or, you know, I'll be the ire. I'll have gained the ire of, you know, the new district attorney or something, to have like false allegations pointed. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, it'll be fun. It'll be exciting. And bring it on, baby. Bring it on. I'm excited. So just a little tidbit there. And then don't forget to watch the show later, guys, because we have Delamore coming on. We'll have all new stuff, all great stuff, all stuff that you wanted to hear, that you're at the edge of your seat. I'm sure you're sitting there wishing, man, I wish my car ride into work was 45 minutes so I could listen to all of Kevin's rant. All right, gang. We'll see you next time. Life22.